"You're a failure, Dad." My son sneered as he laughed at my dream of opening a cafe after retirement. 3 months later, with my cafe thriving, he came back, broke, humiliated, desperate, begging me for a job. I looked straight into his eyes, remembered the sting of his betrayal, and said one word: no. Buford's Cafe isn't just a business. It's a reckoning. Before we go any further, make sure to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment telling me what time it is where you're watching. I don't care what you think about my age. Buford's voice cracked as he slammed the folder onto the kitchen table. Coffee sloshed out of Michael's mug, leaving a dark stain across the carefully arranged documents. Michael froze, still holding his briefcase, jacket half off his shoulder. "Dad, what are you talking about? I want to open a cafe." The words left Buford's mouth before he could take them back. "I know it sounds crazy at my age, but I've been planning this for months. Look at these numbers." His weathered hands trembled as he spread the papers across the scratched linoleum table. Profit projections, menu ideas, location notes. Every sleepless February night poured into those pages. The folder edges were soft and worn from being opened 100 times. Michael's briefcase hit the floor with a dull thud. "You've completely lost your mind. This is madness." "Madness." Buford's voice rose. "This is my dream. I have the money, I have the plan, and I finally have the time. Dad, you're 68. People your age should be playing golf, not risking everything on some business." Michael grabbed one of the spreadsheets, scanning it with disbelief. "Where did you even get these numbers?" "From real research, real banks, real estate agents." Buford snatched the paper back. "I called them all this week. Everything checks out." The kitchen went silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator. Michael's face hardened. He pulled out a chair and sat down slowly. "How much money are we talking about?" $150,000 for the loan. I'll put down 30 from my savings." "Your savings?" Michael's voice dropped to a sharp whisper. "Dad, that money has to last you the rest of your life. What happens when this fantasy fails?" Buford felt his chest heat up. "It won't fail. I've thought through every detail. Come on, let me show you the location." Against his better judgment, Michael followed his father out to the old Buick. The 12-minute drive through Riverside was quiet. Passing the school where Michael had played Little League, the corner store where Buford still bought his groceries. The storefront sat abandoned between a laundromat and a tax office, its paint peeling like sunburnt skin. Both men stood in silence, staring at their reflections in the dusty windows. "This is it," Buford said quietly, pulling a set of keys from his pocket. "The realtor gave me these for the week." Michael stepped closer, his father through the narrow doorway. Inside, dust motes danced in the afternoon light, streaming through cracked windows. The space smelled of neglect and broken dreams. "Perfect size for 30 tables, Buford said, his voice echoing off the bare walls. "Kitchen space in the back, storage. Upstairs. I already talk at a contractors about renovations." Michael walked the perimeter, noting water stains on the ceiling. Outlets that probably hadn't been updated since the 1980s. Flooring that would need complete replacement. Each step revealed another expensive problem. "Dad, this place is a disaster. You'd spend your entire loan just making it livable. Every business starts somewhere. Ray Kroc didn't begin with a palace." Ray Kroc wasn't almost 70 when he started. Michael's patience finally snapped. "This isn't some romantic movie where the elderly dreamer succeeds against This is real life, where restaurants fail every day, where people lose everything, chasing impossible dreams." Buford's hands clenched into fists. "So, I should just give up, sit in me recliner, waiting to die. You should be practical. Think about your future. Think about your family. What happens to Mom's memory when you blow through everything we've worked to preserve?" The mention of Maria hit like a sicko blow. Buford's wife had passed 3 years ago, leaving behind a house, full of memories and a husband who'd forgotten how to dream. Until now. Don't you dare bring your mother into this, Buford whispered. She would have supported me. She always did. Mom was practical. She would have talked sensano you. Michael gestured wildly at the deteriorating space around them. This, a business plan. It's a disastrous gamble with our family's financial security. They drove back in tuxixuance. Michael's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as he turned into his father's driveway. The engine ticked as it cooled, marking time like a countdown to an explosion. Dad, I'm saying this because I love you. Forget this cafe nonsense. Enjoy your retirement. Travel. Take up fishing. Do something appropriate for your age. Appropriate for my age. Buford's voice was barely audible. You mean wait quietly until I'm dead so you can inherit what's left? That's not what I meant, and you know it, is it? Buford turned in his seat, studying his son's face. You're a failure. You'll never succeed. Don't you dare waste my entire inheritance on some stupid cafe. The words hung between them like a blade. Michael's mouth opened, then closed, his face flushing red. Get out of my house, Buford said quietly, and don't come back until you apologize. Dad, I get out. Michael sat for a moment longer, then opened the car door. He walked slowly to his own vehicle, never looking back. Buford watched from his kitchen window as the taillights disappeared into the gathering February dusk. The business plan lay scattered across his table, coffee-stained, but intact. Dreams, it seemed, were more resilient than family relationships. The sound of Michael's engine faded into the distance. Buford closed the door and turned the deadbolt with more force than necessary. His hand remained on the cool metal for several heartbeats, listening to his own breathing in the sudden quiet. He gathered the scattered papers from the kitchen table, smoothing each coffee-stained page with careful fingers. Every number, every projection, represented hours of research and planning. Michael's dismissal couldn't erase the work that had gone into this dream. The living room felt cavernous as Buford settled into his worn leather recliner. The chair had been Maria's choice 20 years ago, selected for its comfort during his long days at the factory. Now it cradled him like an old friend while he reached for the photo albums stacked on the side table. Faded pictures told stories he'd almost forgotten. There he was at 25, wearing a white apron in the community college culinary program. Maria stood beside him, radiant and pregnant with Michael, her hand resting her rounded belly. That was 1983, the year everything changed. He'd been 2 semesters away from graduating when Maria's morning sickness turned severe. The doctor bills piled up while her part-time job became impossible. Someone had to provide stability, and that someone was him. I'll go back to school at her, he'd promised Maria as he took the factory job. After the baby comes, after we get settled. Later never came. There were diapers to buy, a house to afford, college funds to start. Dreams of opening his own restaurant got packed away like seasonal decorations brought out occasionally, but never used. 43 years at the factory. 43 years of precision machinery and scheduled breaks and steady paychecks that built the life Michael now wanted to protect. Every sacrifice had been worth it, or so Buford had told himself. The album slipped from his fingers as sleep finally claimed him. He woke at 6:15 a.m., 2 birds chattering outside his bedroom window. February sunlight streamed through curtains Maria had sewn herself, casting familiar shadows across hardwood floors. Coffee percolated, while Buford showered and dressed in clean jeans and his favorite flannel shirt. The morning routine felt different somehow, charged with possibility instead of mere habit. Today would be about action, not dreams deferred. He pulled the yellow pages from the kitchen drawer and spread them beside his cooling breakfast. Riverside Community Bank appeared first on his list, followed by 3 other local institutions. The Small Business Administration office downtown, to real estate companies that specialized in commercial properties. Good morning, Riverside Community Bank. This is Patricia speaking. Hello, Patricia. My name is Buford Ruiz. I'd like to schedule an appointment to discuss a business loan. Certainly, Mr. Ruiz. What type of business are you looking to start? A cafe, American comfort food, with some Mexican influences. The words felt natural, confident. I have a complete business plan ready for review. Patricia's keyboard clicked softly. In the background, I have an opening next Thursday morning at 9:30 with our commercial lending officer, Ms. Chen. Would that work for you? Perfect. Buford wrote the appointment in his calendar with steady handwriting. What documentation should I bring? The conversation lasted 15 minutes. Tax returns from the last 3 years, bank statements, credit reports, detailed financial projections. Buford took notes in the margins of his business plan, creating a checklist for success. The second call went to the small business administrator. A recorded message explained loan guarantees, startup assistance programs, and free counseling services. Buford wrote down 3 phone numbers and 2 website addresses. Real estate cabinet. The agent who had given him keys to the River Street property answered on the first ring. Mr. Johnson, this is Buford Ruiz. We looked at the cafe space yesterday. Of course. Have you decided to move forward? I'm working on financing. Can you send Meth full property details and recent comparable sales in that area? I'll email everything this afternoon. The owner is motivated to sell, especially to someone with serious restaurant experience. Buford didn't correct the assumption about his experience. 43 years of factory work had taught him about deadlines, quality control, and customer satisfaction. Those skills would translate. By noon, his notebook contained a timeline stretching from February through August. Loan approval be early March, property purchase by mid-March, renovations through June, staff hiring in July, grand opening in August. Each milestone had specific tasks and deadlines. The plan felt real now, solid, not a retirement fenty, but a true business venture with measurable goals and realistic projections. Michael's words ch'd in his memory, but they carried less sting in daylight. I'll show you, son, who the real failure is here, Buford murmured, closing the notebook. He walked to his bedroom and opened the closet Maria had kept so carefully. His best suit hung in protective plastic, navy blue with faint pinstripes. It had been purchased for Michael's college graduation and worn to Maria's funeral. Now it would serve a brighter purpose. The suit fit better than expected. 3 years of grief had taken 15 pounds from his frame, but proper tailoring still showed beneath the looser cut. He adjusted the tie in the bathroom mirror, practicing the confident smile he'd wear to the bank. Buford Ruiz, entrepreneur, he said to his reflection. The title felt unfamiliar, but not impossible. Thursday morning couldn't come fast enough. But first he had 3 more days of preparation, 3 more days to make sure nothing could derail his late-blooming dream. Michael's absence felt like freed the mist of abandonment. The afternoon sun slanted through the kitchen windows as Buford returned to his business plan. Every page needed review, every number double-checked. Success would demand perfection, and perfection needed time, finally had to give. Dreams deferred, he'd learned, weren't always dreams the need. Sometimes they were just dreams waiting for the right moment to bloom. 5 days of preparation had led to this point. Buford adjusted his tie one final time before walking into Riverside Community Bank. The lobby smelled of flowers and ambition, its marble floors shining like a mirror. He carried his father's old leather briefcase, now filled with documents that could change everything. Mr. Ruiz, a woman in her mid-40s, approached with an outstretched hand. I'm Patricia Chen, commercial lending officer. Thank you for coming in. Ms. Chen's office radiated quiet professionalism without being intimidating. Diplomas from UC Riversdale, Banking Association certificates lined one wall. Her desk was organized, holding a computer, tidy stacks of papers, and a coffee mug that proudly read, World's Best Mom, Please, have a seat. Ms. Chen gestured toward a comfortable chair across from her desk. I understand you're interested in starting a cafe. That's correct. Buford opened his briefcase with deliberate calm. I've prepared a detailed business plan for your review. The next 30 minutes unfolded in careful rhythm. Buford laid out his vision for Buford's dream. A neighborhood cafe serving American comfort food with a Mexican twist. He walked through his target market, competition research, and revenue projections with the confidence of a man who had left nothing to chance. Ms. Chen listened intently, jotting notes and asking precise questions about startup costs, operations, and break-even points. Her pen scratched softly across a yellow legal pad, every line a judgment on his future. Your projections look realistic, she said at last, scanning his spreadsheets. What loan amount are you seeking? $150,000. I'll contribute $30,000 from my savings as a down payment. And what collateral will you be offering my house? Current market value is about $200,000, no mortgage. Buford slid the property assessment across her desk. I've owned it free and clear for 12 years. Ms. Chen's brows lifted slightly. Mr. Ruiz, at your age, this is a bold move. Most lenders prefer borrowers with decades of income ahead of them. I've dreamed of this all my life, Buford said. It's no or never. He met her gaze without flinching. I have 43 years of experience, excellent credit, and more determination than most people half my age. Your credit record is excellent, she confirmed, glancing at her computer. 820 score, no late payments, no debt beyond utilities. Still, a loan this size needs solid collateral. The house covers it. Plus, I have steady pension income, $3,200 a month. Ms. Chen pulled a thick application packet from her drawer. If you're ready to proceed, we'll need these forms completed, along with tax returns for the past 3 years, all bank statements, and pension proof. Buford reached into his briefcase and produced a manila folder. Everything's here. I even brought copies. For the next hour, they reviewed every document together. Tax returns showing steady income, bank statements revealing a frugal saver, pension verification from 43 years at the factory. This is impressive preparation, Ms. Chen admitted. Most applicants need several meetings to gather this material. I believe in being ready, Buford said, signing the preliminary application with steady resolve. When can I expect an answer? If the appraisal confirms your property value, we should have a decision in 10 to 14 business days. Our loan committee meets every Tuesday morning. Ms. Chen walked him back to the lobby, her handshake warm and sincere. Mr. Ruiz, I'll be honest, this application will get very serious consideration. Your stability and preparation stand out. In the parking lot, Buford sat in his Buick for several minutes, absorbing what had just happened. The preliminary approval letter felt heavy in his hands, not just paper, but proof his dream was moving forward. Ms. Chen's encouragement was genuine, not polite formality. He dialed his real estate agent. Mr. Johnson, this is Buford Ruiz. I just left the bank with preliminary approval. Can we schedule a second walkthrough of the River Street property today? Absolutely. How about 3 o'clock? Perfect. And Mr. Johnson, I'm ready to make an offer. Buford started the engine, eased out of the parking lot. In his rearview mirror, Ms. Chen's office window caught the sunlight. She was likely already entering his details, beginning the process that would turn his lifelong dream into reality. The radio played soft jazz as he drove through downtown Riverside toward home. Every building, every familiar corner seemed transformed. Now, as if the whole neighborhood knew he was no longer just a retiree, he was a man with purpose. At the next red light, he glanced at his phone. Michael's name still sat in his contacts, untouched since their fight 5 days ago. His thumb hovered over the call button. Not yet, he thought. First the approval, then the purchase, then the renovations. Michael would see the results before he heard another word from his father. Actions would speak louder than apologies. The light turned green, and Buford pressed the gas, driving toward a future that suddenly felt wide open. His windows were rolled down, and hope rode shotgun. Dreams, he was learning, kept their own schedule. His was just beginning. 8 days later, the official loan approval letter rested like a secret weapon in Buford's pocket as he stood outside the weathered storefront that would soon be his. Linda Martinez, the real estate agent, checked her watch and smiled. "Right on time, Mr. Ruiz. Ready to make it official?" Buford nodded, smoothing the lapel of his gray suit jacket. This moment had consumed his every thought, but standing here now, with the keys almost in hand, it felt surreal. "This building has real potential," Linda said, unlocking the front door. "The last owner ran an antique shop here for 50 years. Good bones, solid foundation." Sunlight spilled through dusty windows, turning the floating particles into a kind of celebration. Buford stepped inside, tracing the room with his eyes. He could already see past the dirt and peeling paint, imagining tables filled with conversation and plates of food. The electrical was updated in 2018. Linda continued, pointing toward the circuit panel. "Plumbing is functional, though you'll need commercial fixtures for restaurant use. The upstairs storage is a bonus." Buford ran his fingers along the old counter, where customers once paid for antiques. Soon, neighbors would order coffee and comfort food here. "I see opportunity, not decay," he said softly, almost to himself. Linda laid the closing documents across a folding table near the front window. Purchase agreement, deed transfer, insurance, utilities. Each signature brought Buford closer to his dream. "Final purchase price, $89,000, Linda said, scanning the last page. "Your loan covers the full amount and closing costs. Everything is in order." Buford signed with steady hands, feeling nearly 70 years of dreaming crystallize into reality. The pen felt like a tool capable of reshaping his entire life. "Congratulations, Mr. Ruiz," Linda said, handing over a brass keyring with 3 keys: front door, back entrance, and upstairs storage. "The building is officially yours." The keys were cool against his palm, but the weight carried a warmth that spread through his chest. They unlocked more than doors, they unlocked the future. "Any advice for a first-time business owner?" Buford asked as Linda packed her briefcase. "Stick to your plan, but stay flexible," she replied. "This community loves supporting local spots. Give them good food and a warm welcome, they'll come back." When Linda left, Buford stood in the silent space for the first time as its rightful owner. The quiet wrapped around him like a favorite blanket. Every scratch on the floor, every crack in the plaster belonged to him now. He walked into the back kitchen area, pacing out space for the grill, the prep stations, the refrigerators. His mental blueprint finally had walls. His phone buzzed confirmation from the bank that the funds had been released. His account now reflected the transfer, making this dream official, not just on paper, but in the digital record of his life. Outside, River Street moved at its usual afternoon, pace cars passing, shoppers chatting, dogs pulling on leashes. Soon, they'd smell fresh coffee and sizzling food drifting from this very spot. The thought sent a thrill through Buford's chest. Dust motes still danced in the sunlight, but now they swirled in his cafe, under his roof, part of his story. Tomorrow would bring contractors, permits, and endless details. But today was for standing still, feeling the solid weight of the keys, and knowing that his dream had a home. For the next 5 days, Buford fell into a rhythm. He arrived every morning with coffee and cleaning supplies, slowly reclaiming the space from years of neglect. Measuring tape stretched across the floor, marking future tables, while a damp rag revealed warm wood beneath layers of dust. He was kneeling by the front window, scraping old paint from the window frame when familiar footsteps crunched on the sidewalk. Buford looked up, catching the silhouette through the dusty glass. Michael. Even from a distance, his son's shoulders were stiff, charged with anger. The front door slammed open. "Dad, you've lost your mind. Cancel this deal." Michael stood in the doorway, his business suit like armor, briefcase gripped so tightly his knuckles were white. The same fury from their February argument burned in his face, only now it was sharper, fueled by betrayal. "Hello, son." Buford rose slowly, joints aching from hours spent on his knees. "I wasn't expecting you. I saw the bank statements on your counter. $89,000. You actually bought this wreck." Michael's anger boiled over. He kicked the cleaning bucket, spilling soapy water across the floor. It spread like a dark stain, catching the light like fractured glass. "This is my choice," Buford said firmly. "You won't stop me. Your choice." Michael's voice cracked. "You mortgaged your future on this fantasy. What happens when it fails? When the bank takes the house, where will you live?" Buford set the scraper down and turned to face him fully. 5 days of labor had hardened his resolve. Every scrubbed surface and measured corner had turned out into determination. "I'm not failing. Look around. This is real progress. This cafe will work." "Progress?" Michael's laugh was sharp, bitter. He gestured at the peeling walls and exposed wiring. "You're 68, trying to compete with seasoned restaurateurs. You've never run a business. This is reckless." "I have 43 years of work behind me," Buford said, voice calm but unshakable, "and more determination than most men half my age. Determination doesn't pay rent when no one shows up. Determination doesn't cover lawsuits if someone gets sick." The words echoed against the bare walls, heavy enough to make both men pause. Michael's breathing came fast, almost panicked, but Buford stayed steady, like the floor beneath them. "You're scared," Buford said quietly. "Scared I might succeed without your permission." "I'm scared you'll destroy everything Mom and you worked for," Michael shot back. "The house, your savings, your security all wasted on some childish dream. Don't bring your mother into this," Buford said, voice low. "Dangerous. Maria would have stopped this madness," Michael snapped. "No," Buford said, his whisper sharp as glass. "Maria would have wanted me happy, not controlled." Michael's jaw tightened as he pulled out his phone. "I'm calling Dr. Rodriguez. Maybe he can talk sense into you." "Put the phone away. Someone needs to stop you before you ruin everything." Buford crossed the room in 3 quick steps, snatching the phone from his son's hand. Michael's eyes widened at the sudden movement. "This conversation is over. Leave my property. Your property." Michael laughed bitterly. "This condemned building that's going to eat you alive. This is a disaster waiting to happen. This is my property," Buford said, voice like stone. "And it's going to prove you wrong." The space between them felt like a canyon now. Michael straightened his tie, grabbed his briefcase with theatrical dignity. "You'll see what happens. When this fantasy collapses, don't expect me to bail you out." "I wouldn't dream of asking," Buford said evenly. Michael reached the door, then turned for one final blow. "Mom would be ashamed of what you've become." The words landed like punches, but Buford didn't flinch. "Your mother would be proud. I finally found the courage to stop surviving and start living." Car doors slammed outside. An engine roared to life and faded into the distance. Buford stood alone in the quiet, the room still humming with the echo of Michael's anger. He stooped, picked up the overturned bucket, and set it upright. Then, without another word, he went back to scraping paint. Work, he'd learned, was the best answer to pain, antidote to family disappointment. Tomorrow would bring contractors and permits. Success would be the only argument that mattered. The next morning, Buford arrived at the cafe before sunrise, Michael's words still ringing in his ears like a dare he couldn't ignore. City Hall opened at 8, and he was determined to be first, in line for the permits that would turn his dream into reality. March 6th marked the start of controlled chaos. Each night, Buford's kitchen table became a command center, permits spread out in neat rows, every line carefully filled. Each day, construction dust coated his clothes, proof that progress was being made. "Next window, please," the clerk called. She'd processed dozens of applications that week, but none as precise as Buford's. Each document was organized, each signature legible, every requirement checked twice. Food service license, business operation permit, health department approval. Buford handed over the full packet he'd assembled in 3 research-heavy days: fire safety certification, signage permit, everything the city could possibly ask for. 2 weeks later, a manila envelope sat in his hands, thick with official approval. Each stamp and signature was one step closer to opening day, one step closer to proving everyone wrong. Contractors arrived the following Monday. Frank Rodriguez, a veteran of 12 restaurant renovations in Riverside, walked the space with a practiced eye. "Electrical upgrades will handle your equipment load," Frank said, tracing lines on the blueprint. "Commercial refrigeration here, gas lines for the grill, proper ventilation for health codes. We'll make this perfect." "This is my dream," Buford said simply. "Then we'll make it perfect, Mr. Ruiz." The timeline looked good for an August opening, and Buford made it his job to be there daily. He unlocked the door each morning, greeted the crews, and supervised every detail with the precision that 43 years in manufacturing had taught him. Quality control mattered whether building machines or building dreams. Slowly, the café began to change. New electrical panels buzzed quietly, ready for commercial loads. Plumbing upgrades added sink stations. Fresh paint, in warm, welcoming reds and yellows, replaced the tired neutrals that had clung to the walls for decades. One afternoon, while Buford was sweeping sawdust from the new flooring, a woman approached, looking for work. She was mid-30s, polished but worn around the eyes. "Actually, I am hiring," Buford replied. "Ana Gonzalez," she said, extending her hand. "I heard you're opening a restaurant." "Buford Ruiz," he replied, shaking her hand. "Tell me about your experience." Anna spoke with the calm authority of someone who knew her craft. 8 years in food service, experience with menu, timing, customer flow, inventory management. But it was her quiet honesty that struck Buford most. "I need this job," she said simply. "I have children to support." There was no begging in her tone, just truth. "When can you start training?" Buford asked. The following week brought Tommy Brown, 22, fresh out of culinary school. His energy filled the room, his words bright with passion. "I've always wanted to work in a restaurant," Tommy said, describing his training and eagerness to put it to use. By month's end, the transformation was nearly complete. Commercial refrigerators hummed in the kitchen, the 6-burner gas range gleamed under new lights, and rows of tables and chairs turned the empty room into a cafe ready to welcome customers. Evenings were spent developing the menu, Buford and Tommy testing dishes, perfecting the balance between classic comfort food and the Mexican flavors that had inspired Buford's vision from the start. Training in Anna's practical experience. "Chili verde enchiladas with cornbread," Tommy suggested, reviewing prototype recipes. Classic meatloaf with cilantro mashed potatoes followed. Familiar flavors with unexpected touches. "Pricing has to work for families," Anna added pragmatically. "Riverside isn't Beverly Hills. People want quality they can afford." Buford stood in the transformed space on March 31st, surrounded by his small team and months of progress. The opening day schedule on their whiteboard showed April 15th as the target. Everything was ready except customers. Opening day came with the same spring sunshine that had blessed every preparation before it. By 7 a.m., Buford's dream stood ready for its first guests. Fresh flowers bloomed in window boxes, while the aroma of Tommy's breakfast pastries drifted through spotless dining rooms. Buford checked the coffee machine for the 20th time that morning. Every detail had to be perfect. The gleaming counter surfaces, the straightened salt shakers, the menus at precise angles on every table. Anna arrived in her new uniform, face bright with professional excitement, despite the worry in her eyes. "Everything looks amazing, Mr. Ruiz." She tied her apron with practiced efficiency. "First days are always challenging, but we're ready." Tommy emerged from the kitchen with a tray of sample breakfast items, enthusiasm lighting up his face even this early. Steam rose from fresh biscuits and scrambled eggs, while bacon strips lay in neat rows, like soldiers prepared for battle. "Tomorrow will be different. You'll see," he said cheerfully, though Buford hadn't voiced his doubts aloud. His culinary school optimism stayed strong, despite the reality of empty tables stretching before them. By 8 o'clock, the morning rush Buford had hoped for became a heavy silence. Anna wiped already clean counters, while Tommy rearranged displays that were already perfect. Buford stood by the window watching pedestrians pass without even glancing at the signage. "Maybe they don't know we're open yet," Anna said, though her tone lacked conviction. 9 o'clock brought the same traffic pattern. People hurried to work with their own coffee cups, students heading to campus with backpacks full of everything except hunger for their food. The cash register stayed silent. Tommy kept cooking, determined to have fresh food ready when customers finally arrived. Pancakes, omelets, hash browns, enough for 30 people. The smell alone should have drawn a crowd, but River Street stayed indifferent. "The lunch crowd will be better," Buford told himself, checking the wall clock for the 100th time. "Business people need meals. Families want affordable options." Anna nodded, but her eyes drifted toward the empty tip jar more often. She had children depending on this job, bills waiting at home. 11 o'clock came with lunch prep, but no customers. Tommy had prepared for a rush, but served none. The perfect dining room mocked them with its emptiness. Maybe Michael was right after all, Buford muttered before catching himself. "Don't say that," Anna said firmly. "Every new business takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day." Rome probably had customers, Buford thought bitterly. They probably didn't bet their savings on dreams no one wanted. 2 o'clock came with no afternoon rush, leaving them standing in their beautiful, empty cafe like actors, performing for an audience that never came. The coffee grew cold in its carafes, while lunch specials dried under heat lamps. "Should we close early?" Tommy asked, his optimism fading. "No." Buford's reply came sharper than he intended. "We stay open until 6 as planned." Professional businesses kept consistent hours, but professionalism felt hollow when profit was non-existent. And purpose seemed misplaced. Every dollar spent on ingredients, every hour of prep, every dream invested felt wasted on a community that seemed indifferent to Buford's vision. 6 o'clock came like a sentence being read aloud. I locked the front door while Anna and Tommy cleaned equipment that had barely been touched. The register total, exactly $0. "Same time tomorrow?" Anna asked, her voice steady, but her eyes betraying the question underneath. "Same time tomorrow," I said, forcing more confidence into my voice than I actually felt. Standing on the sidewalk, I looked through the window at empty tables and unused chairs. Michael's warnings echoed in my head. Maybe dreams deferred really did turn into dreams denied. The keys in my hand felt heavier than they had on the day I bought this place. The next morning brought the same bright sun, but my excitement had faded to a kind of grim resolve. I unlocked the door without ceremony, Anna arriving right on time, despite yesterday's discouraging silence. Her loyalty meant everything now, when my own belief was starting to crack. Tommy burst through the back entrance with his usual grin, convinced yesterday had just been bad luck. "Second day jitters," he said cheerfully. "Happens to everyone." I wished I could share his optimism, but the empty register spoke louder than hope. We prepared for another day of beautiful food, for an invisible crowd. Another day proving Michael might have been right. Then, at 8:15, the bell over the door chimed. "Our first customer, finally open," said an elderly man, smiling as he held the door for his wife. She moved carefully, but with real excitement. "Good morning," I said, surprised by how rough my customer service voice sounded after a whole day of silence. "Coffee for two, and whatever smells so good back there," the man said. His wife chose a corner booth while he came to the counter, smiling like he'd found something special. Tommy appeared from the kitchen carrying plates of steaming breakfast. Anna poured coffee with hands steadier than yesterday, her professional focus snapping back as if someone had flipped a switch. Before I could even process this miracle, more people came. A young mother with 2 kids, 3 business people spreading out contracts on the table, a college student who claimed the window seat, laptop open, coffee order ready. "Excuse me," I said, answering the ringing phone while Anna took orders, and Tommy kept pace in the kitchen. "Buford's Dream Café. How can I help you?" "Oh, Mr. Ruiz, I am so sorry." It was Sarah Johnson, our marketing coordinator, and she sounded horrified. "I printed the wrong date on all your ads. Yesterday should have been your soft opening, but everyone thought today was the real launch." Relief hit me like summer rain. Nothing was wrong with our food, our concept, or our location. Just a printing error. "Thank you for letting me know," I said, watching Anna juggle 3 tables and Tommy send out another tray of hot plates. "We're handling it." By 10 o'clock, every table was filled. Conversations rose and fell in warm waves, the exact sound I'd been imagining for months. Families shared plates, business people scribbled notes over coffee, and satisfied voices turned my quiet cafe into something alive. "Order up," Tommy called, grinning from the pass-through window. Tommy called from the kitchen, his formal training finally meeting real-world demand. Plates flowed from prep to service with growing precision, and the cash register chimed with steady, satisfying rhythm. Anna moved between tables like she'd been doing this for years, refilling cups, clearing plates, smiling as customers praised the food. The tip jar filled steadily, proof that our work meant something. "Best eggs Benedict in Riverside," one man announced to his friend. "This place is going to be popular." Popular felt too small a word. By noon, we had a waiting list. People stood outside, willing to wait for a seat in the same restaurant that had sat empty the day before. "We need more staff," Anna whispered during a rare pause. "We need more everything," I said, watching Tommy juggle 6 orders without missing a detail. Breakfast bled into lunch as a steady stream of students discovered our prices and retirees lingered over generous plates. At closing time, I counted the receipts with hands shaking from pure exhaustion, not fear. We had not only covered our operating costs but made a modest profit. More importantly, customers were already promising to come back. "Same time tomorrow?" Anna asked again, but this time her question was full of excitement. "Same time tomorrow," I said, and meant it. Standing there, surrounded by evidence that our dream was real, I realized this was never about proving Michael wrong. It was about building something valuable that people actually wanted. Tomorrow would bring its own battles, but tonight was for celebration. 18 days later, the cafe had gone from experiment to neighborhood fixture. Mornings started with prep work, gave way to lunch rush chaos, and ended with the quiet satisfaction of wiping down tables. Local papers had run a feature on our opening. Online reviews praised the food and service, and familiar faces began to show up daily. The elderly couple claimed their corner booth every morning. Students took over the afternoons, laptops open, and coffee cups emptying. Business lunches became a dependable part of our revenue stream. I was wiping the counter during a packed lunch hour when Michael appeared in the doorway. Every table was full. Anna worked the floor with calm efficiency, and Tommy was in the kitchen, confidently calling out orders. We were surrounded by living proof of success. Dad. Michael's voice cut through the cheerful noise like a blade. He was wearing his usual business armor, tailored suit, polished shoes, carrying a leather briefcase that signaled this was no casual visit. Michael. I kept wiping the counter, refusing to let him see my hands tremble. As you can see, we're busy. I can see that. His tone wasn't prideful. It was cold. That's why I'm here. He walked to the counter, placing the briefcase down with the finality of a gavel. Conversations around us slowed, then stopped. Customers sensed the shift in the room. You need a psychological evaluation. He opened the briefcase and pulled out a thick manila folder, dropping it onto my freshly cleaned counter with deliberate force. Inside were documents stamped with legal language, competency evaluations, financial guardianship petitions, medical examination requests. What is this? My voice was steady, but I already knew. Protection for the family estate, Michael said. You've made reckless financial decisions. These forms will give us legal grounds to intervene before you lose everything. The cafe went silent. Anna froze. Mid-order, Tommy stepped into the doorway, his apron dusted with flour, watching, as if this were a scene from a play. You want to take everything away from me. My voice came out louder than I intended, carrying to every table. I want to prevent you from destroying what Mom and Dad worked for. Michael shot back. This restaurant proves you're incapable of rational decision-making. This restaurant proves I'm more capable than you ever allowed yourself to believe. Michael gestured toward the customers, the staff, the entire room dismissing the living evidence that contradicted every warning he had delivered. Temporary luck doesn't erase bad judgment. When this venture collapses, and it will, you'll have nothing left, no house, no savings, nothing to protect you. The folder of legal papers suddenly weighed a ton in my hands, heavier than anything I'd carried in months of construction. These weren't just family arguments anymore. This was legal warfare. Competency evaluations could become conservatorship hearings. The signatures inside could strip me of my right to make my own decisions. I will never sign this, I said, voice low but steady. You crossed the line today. You don't have to sign it, Michael replied coldly. A judge can order the assessments. Your behavior speaks for itself. Anna appeared at my side, clearly torn between professionalism and concern. Customers had begun slipping toward the door, unwilling to witness what had become a public family showdown. Mr. Ruiz, Anna asked carefully, as though checking whether she should call for help or give us privacy. It's fine, Anna, I said, not taking my eyes off Michael. My son was just leaving. This isn't over, he said. When bankruptcy proceedings begin, you'll see I was the only one trying to protect you. He snapped the briefcase shut with a sound like a closing verdict. Conversations in the dining room stopped entirely as every eye followed him to the door. Your mother would be ashamed of you, I called after him, the words harsher than I intended. Mom would have stopped this madness before it began. Michael shot back without turning around. The door shut behind him with a finality that felt like a challenge. I stared down at the legal documents still scattered across my counter. Anna quietly cleared abandoned tables while Tommy retreated to the kitchen, giving me space to gather myself. My restaurant full of proof that I was competent, capable, and trusted by the community, now felt like a battleground. Apparently, success made me more dangerous in my son's eyes than failure ever had. Those papers stayed on the counter all afternoon. A reminder of the war Michael had declared. But instead of breaking me, they hardened my resolve. Within a week, word of our early success had attracted attention from 3 potential investors, all eager to be part of a growing brand. The Chamber of Commerce introduced me to property owners downtown who were looking to fill prime corner space, the kind I had once thought beyond my reach. This time, I walked into negotiations armed with proof, profit statements, customer testimonials, and a waiting list for weekend tables. Yes, the rent is higher, I told the landlord, but so is the traffic. We'll make it work. How did you manage such a quick turnaround? Jennifer Walsh from the Riverside Business Journal asked during our interview a month later. The secret? I smiled. Dreams paired with determination. Age doesn't shrink your vision, it sharpens it. By then, Anna had been promoted to assistant manager, running River Street like a pro, while Tommy developed our new catering menu for local offices. 6 new employees joined our growing team, transforming us from a single restaurant to something that looked suspiciously like the beginnings of an empire. The downtown location was taking shape, and so was my new life. The grand opening of our downtown location drew city council members, local business leaders, and even a few local celebrities, people who, just 6 months earlier, wouldn't have recognized my name. Standing at the ribbon-cutting ceremony felt surreal for a man who had once been dismissed as nothing more than an aging dreamer chasing an impossible idea. You've inspired all of us to believe in possibilities, Anna told me during our next staff meeting, as she reviewed financial reports that showed a remarkable 40% growth in monthly revenue. Seeing you succeed gives everyone hope. Media attention soon followed. Articles and interviews began circulating about the man who turned retirement into reinvention. I was nominated for Senior Entrepreneur of the Year, invited to speak at local colleges, and even asked to mentor other late-life business owners. My story had become proof that retirement wasn't necessarily an ending. It could be the beginning of something extraordinary. The original River Street location remained the cozy neighborhood hub it had always been, while our new downtown space catered to professionals seeking high-quality meals on busy workdays. 2 locations, 2 different vibes, but the same standards of excellence that built our reputation across every customer base. Financial projections showed we'd pay off the original loan months ahead of schedule. Profits were reinvested into catering services, which quickly became one of our most lucrative offerings. The cycle of success kept feeding itself, and for the first time in my life, I felt unstoppable, standing behind a podium at the Riverside Chamber of Commerce luncheon, accepting a Business Achievement Award. I thought back to Michael's dismissive laughter the day I first told him about my dream. Vindication, I realized, had never tasted sweeter. This is only the beginning, I told the applauding audience. Dreams don't expire. They activate when you're ready to fight for them. That night, the local news featured our story as inspiration for other seniors considering second careers. Phone calls came in from retirees across California, all asking the same question: how do I start? By August, summer heat baked the streets of Riverside, but both restaurants were thriving. We were operating at capacity daily, and catering orders were booked weeks in advance. Our meetings now focused on sustainable growth rather than survival. One afternoon, while reviewing financial reports in my office at the original location, I noticed movement in the familiar corner booth. Michael sat there, hunched over a single coffee cup, his posture a shadow of the proud man I remembered. My pen stilled mid-calculation. He wasn't in one of his tailored suits. Instead, he wore casual clothes that hung slightly loose, the fabric tired, like him. His shoulders were slumped fingers, tracing restless patterns on the tabletop. Michael, I said evenly, not leaving my chair. I wanted him to choose, approach me, or walk away. Dad. His voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. He glanced up briefly, then looked back at his coffee. Busy as always, I see. Business requires attention. I gestured toward the spreadsheets, charts, and invoices scattered across my desk. Success doesn't maintain itself. No, I suppose it doesn't. There was no fight in his tone now, no sharp edges. Congratulations on the expansion. The downtown place looks impressive. You've been watching. Hard to miss the media coverage. Local senior builds restaurant empire. Quite the headline. The silence between us grew heavy, filled with unspoken history. Afternoon lights shifted across the floor. the same floor he had once threatened to take from me through legal means. I was fired, he said abruptly, like he'd been holding the confession in too long, for trying to have you declared incompetent. Corporate investigated. Found out I'd used company resources to prepare those legal filings. I nodded slowly. Actions have consequences. 6 weeks without a paycheck. Behind on the mortgage? The kids' school expenses piling up. Sarah had to go back to work after years at home. Each word seemed physically painful for him to say. Difficult situation, I said quietly. My tone was neutral, neither sympathetic nor cruel. I lost everything because of my own stupidity. Michael finally raised his eyes to meet mine. Everything I tried to protect from your reckless dream is gone, because I couldn't accept your right to pursue it. The restaurant was quiet, the lull between lunch and dinner leaving us almost alone. Anna worked silently at the front counter. Tommy prepped for the evening rush in the kitchen, both of them pretending not to hear. You inflicted the greatest damage on yourself, I said, after a long pause. All I did was prove you wrong. About me. You did more than that, he admitted, gesturing around the restaurant, now full of customers, energy, and success. You built something remarkable. Something I tried to destroy because I was afraid. Fear makes people do strange things, I said. Fear and pride. Michael let out a short, bitter laugh. I was so sure you'd fail that I torched my own career, trying to stop you. And here you are, thriving. The weight of an unspoken apology hung between us like fog, heavy, but slowly beginning to lift. Michael needed help, that much was obvious. Whether he'd find the courage to ask was unclear, as was my own response if he did. The kids miss their grandfather, he said softly. They don't understand why we stopped visiting. Children shouldn't suffer for their parents' mistakes. No, they shouldn't. Michael stood slowly, leaving most of his coffee untouched. I should let you get back to work. He walked toward the door with visible reluctance, pausing at the threshold to glance back. Questions filled his eyes, silent pleas for forgiveness, a job, money, everything. His pride still kept locked behind his teeth. I turned back to my spreadsheets, unwilling to offer what he couldn't bring himself to request. 15 minutes later, the door chimed again. Buford didn't need to look up to know his son had returned. Dad. Michael's voice carried a quiet determination. Could we talk properly? I closed my reports and gestured to the chair across from my desk. This time, he sat down instead of standing by the exit like a guilty teenager. I need to ask you something directly. His hands trembled slightly. I know I have no right after everything I've done, but I need help. Yes. The admission seemed to deflate him. Please give me any job, even washing dishes, night shifts, whatever you can spare. I'm desperate. I studied his face. For the first time in years, I saw humility there. The arrogant executive was gone. In his place sat a man stripped down by life, a father feeling the weight of his own choices. You want to work in the restaurant you once called my suicide mission. I want to work anywhere you'll take me. I understand food service now, at least from watching you. I'll learn anything that doesn't involve facing the public. Why should I trust you? I leaned back, letting him feel the full weight of the question. You tried to have me declared incompetent. You used legal threats against your own father, because I was wrong about everything. His voice cracked. Wrong about you. Wrong about this business. Wrong about family. Being wrong doesn't erase what you did. No, it doesn't. His eyes dropped back to his hands. But I'm hoping mercy might. I stayed silent, letting the hum of the cafe fill the space. The clatter of dishes, the smell of fresh coffee, the organized rhythm of a business he once called doomed. All of it was proof of the competence. He had doubted. I can't forget the damage you caused, I said at last, my voice calm but final. The legal threats, the humiliation, the attempts to strip me of my independence. Dad, please, You called me a failure. You tried to take away everything I built. I rose and walked to the window, looking out at the thriving restaurant that existed despite him. Now you know what it feels like to be called a failure. Michael's shoulders sagged. You're saying no. I'm saying justice has been served. I turned back to him. You ruined your career trying to ruin mine. You lost your financial security trying to take mine. The pain you're feeling now is the result of your own choices. What about forgiveness? What about family? Family loyalty works both ways, I said evenly. You showed me none when I needed you. I'll show you none now. Michael stood slowly, as if the weight of the answer pressed down on him. There would be no appeals, no future reconsiderations. I understand. His voice was hollow, but steady. I brought this on myself. Yes, you did. He turned toward the door. Before leaving, he glanced around the cafe one last time, at the business that had cost him his pride, but proved my worth. For what it's worth, I'm proud of what you've built. It's worth very little this late. Michael nodded once and stepped into the warm August evening, through the window. I watched him walk to a modest car, another quiet sign of how far he'd fallen, standing alone behind the counter of my successful cafe. Surrounded by the proof of dreams realized, despite opposition, I felt the calm satisfaction of justice, not revenge. Justice. Some wounds to trust cannot be healed by apologies. Some failures we bring entirely upon ourselves. Request made, answer given, justice served. If you enjoyed this story, I said to the audience, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to hear the next story, click on the box to the left. Thank you for watching.